In the vast, often repetitive landscape of 21st-century cinema, there exists a specific moment in 2014 when the spy genre decided to straighten its tie, polish its Oxfords, and then proceed to violently dismantle every preconceived notion of what an espionage film should be. That moment was the release of Matthew Vaughn's Kingsman, The Secret Service. To merely call it an action movie is to do it a disservice. It is a raucous, subversive, and impeccably tailored love letter to the Bond films of the 60s, injected with a distinct dose of hyper-modern adrenaline and socio-political satire. It stands as a cinematic paradox, simultaneously upholding the virtues of classic gentlemanly conduct while engaging in some of the most visceral, R-rated choreography ever committed to film. To understand the brilliance of Kingsman, one must first acknowledge the context into which it was born. By 2014, the spy genre had been dominated by the Bourne identity effect. Films had become gritty, shaky, desaturated, and obsessively grounded in a bleak realism. Even James Bond had traded his laser watches and invisible cars for emotional trauma and bruised knuckles. Into this dour atmosphere stepped Matthew Vaughn, adapting the comic book by Mark Millar and Dave Gibbons, with a proposition that was as audacious as it was refreshing. He asked a simple question: what if we brought back the fun, the gadgets, and the megalomaniacal villains, but treated them with the stylistic irreverence of a punk rock concert? The result is a film that functions not just as a narrative, but as a stylistic manifesto. The narrative arc, while following the mythical structure of the hero's journey, is executed with a flavor that is uniquely British and explicitly class-conscious. We are introduced to Gary Eggsy Unwin, portrayed with electric charisma by Taron Egerton. Eggsy is the archetype of the chav, a young man from the council estates, draped in streetwear, devoid of direction, yet brimming with wasted potential and high intellect. The brilliance of the script lies in how it refuses to demonize his background. Eggsy isn't a thug. He is a diamond in the rough, a victim of circumstance and rigid class structures. His recruitment into the Kingsman organization is not just a job interview, it is an experiment in social mobility. It posits the idea that nobility is not defined by the circumstances of one's birth, but by the strength of their character. Enter Harry Hart, codenamed Galahad, played by Colin Firth. The casting of Firth was, in itself, a masterstroke of subversive genius. Known globally as Mr. Darcy, the quintessential romantic lead in Stuttering Monarch, Firth was the last person audiences expected to see dismantling a pub full of hooligans. Yet, the "manners maketh man" scene remains one of the most iconic introductions in action cinema history. The film takes the calm, composed demeanor of the British gentleman and weapon eschewed. The locking of the pub doors is a promise of violence delivered with the silence of a library. When the fight erupts, it is not the chaotic, incomprehensible shaking of the camera that we had grown accustomed to in other franchises. Instead, Vaughn utilizes a distinct visual style: wide angles, steady cams, and a rhythmic acceleration and deceleration of frame rates. The violence becomes a dance, a ballet of brutality where every impact is felt, and every movement is clear. It is elegant destruction, reinforcing the film's core thesis that manners and lethality are not mutually exclusive. The film's aesthetic serves as a character in its own right. The Kingsman tailor shop on Savile Row acts as the portal to this secret world, grounding the fantastical elements in a reality of wool, silk, and bespoke fitting. The suit is presented as the modern gentleman's armor. This is more than just product placement, it is symbolic. The transformation of Eggsy from a boy in a tracksuit to a man in a bespoke suit is the visual representation of his internal maturation. However, the film is careful not to suggest that the clothes make the man. Rather, the clothes reflect the discipline the man has acquired. When Eggsy finally dons the suit, he hasn't lost his identity. He has refined it. He retains his distinct accent and his street-smart edge, proving that a Kingsman can be evolved without being erased. On the other side of this ideological coin sits the antagonist, Richmond Valentine, portrayed by Samuel L. Jackson. Valentine is a delightful inversion of the classic Bond villain. He does not stroke a cat or sit in the shadows. He wears bright colors, speaks with a distinct lisp, and, most hilariously, cannot stand the sight of blood. This squeamishness adds a layer of irony to his genocidal plan to save the Earth by culling the human population. His weapon is not a nuclear bomb, but a SIM card, a terrifyingly plausible threat in our hyper-connected age. The dinner scene between Harry Hart and Valentine, where they discuss spy movie tropes over McDonald's cheeseburgers and fine wine, is a perfect encapsulation of the film's tone. It is self-aware without being cynical, acknowledging the absurdity of the genre while simultaneously reveling in it. We must also discuss the church scene, a sequence that has rightly earned its place in the Hall of Fame of action cinema. Set to the blistering solo of Lynyrd Skynyrd's Free Bird, this sequence is a masterclass in kinetic filmmaking. It is a descent into absolute chaos, a massacre that is horrifying yet mesmerizing. Narratively, it serves a devastating purpose. It demonstrates the terrifying effectiveness of Valentine's weapon, stripping away the veneer of civilization from even the most composed gentleman, Harry Hart. The choice to kill Harry immediately following this scene is the film's boldest narrative pivot. In a traditional film, the mentor survives to nod approvingly at the end. In Kingsman, the mentor is unceremoniously executed, forcing the student to stand on his own feet immediately. It raises the stakes essentially, signaling to the audience that despite the fun tone, no one is safe. The climax of the film continues this trend of subversion. The assault on Valentine's mountain bunker is a pastiche of every spy lair raid from the 60s, but turned up to 11. The film eschews the dark, brooding final fights of its contemporaries in favor of a technicolor explosion of violence. The moment where the heads of the world's elite explode in a rhythmic display of colorful mushroom clouds, set to pomp and circumstance, is arguably the definitive image of the movie. It is grotesque, it is hilarious, and it is profoundly satisfying. It is a literal explosion of the class system, a colorful revolution that wipes out the corrupt elite who thought they could buy their survival. It is a sequence that dares the audience to laugh at death, pushing the boundaries of good taste to their absolute limit. Furthermore, the supporting characters add richness to the tapestry. Mark Strong's Merlin provides the steady, technical backbone, a grounded presence amidst the madness. Sofia Boutella's Gazelle is a henchman for the ages, her bladed prosthetic legs serving as a unique visual threat that alters the choreography of every fight she is in. She is not merely a physical obstacle but a visual extension of the film's unique aesthetic, sharp, deadly, and graceful. Thematically, Kingsman, The Secret Service is a story about legacy and belonging. It interrogates the British class system, ultimately rejecting the notion that greatness is hereditary. The Kingsman organization, initially presented as a bastion of old-world elitism, is saved by the new blood of Eggsy. It suggests that institutions must evolve or die. The gentleman spy is not a relic of the past, but an ideal that must be constantly reinvented. In conclusion, Kingsman, The Secret Service is far more than a summer blockbuster. It is a meticulously crafted piece of pop art that deconstructs a genre only to rebuild it stronger, faster, and better dressed. It balances a tightrope between parody and homage, never falling into the trap of mocking the material it loves. It celebrates the escapism of cinema, reminding us that movies can be violent, loud, and ridiculous, while still possessing heart and wit. It remains a singular achievement in action filmmaking, a film that walked into the room, locked the doors, and taught the world that manners, indeed, maketh man.